Yukio Mishima, Yukio Mishima. This guy was a trip and then he killed himself. Because he had an army. Not because he had an army, but anyway. Hello there, CriterioNate here, number 432. Paul Schrader's Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters. 1985, 120 minutes, black and white color, stereo Japanese, blah, 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 blah. So, this guy, Yukio Mishima. So this is basically a biography of his life. Yukio Mishima is played by Ken Ogata. And it's told in a bunch of different parts. So Yukio Mishima was this guy he was an author. I think first and foremost he was an author, but he did a lot of other things. He was an actor. He also dabbled in modeling. I guess at one point he became very conscious about his body weight, and so he ended up going to the gym and working on his body. And when he got this really big body and all these muscles and all that, he wanted to show it off. So he did a lot of nude photography and all that. And yeah, and then eventually he ended up, I guess, getting his own private army and going against someone in Japan, and so he ended up I guess he ends up making this speech to the people, and as this general, he thought himself as this general, and he ended up making this speech that no one listened to, and so he ended up, and he felt humiliated, and because of that he ended up committing harakiri or something like that. That's the best that I remember. That's what this movie has taught me, including the 55-minute documentary that's included in this. So yeah, so Mishima was a very interesting human being. That's the best way to put it. I think the best way to describe him, he definitely lived a life. Dude lived a life. He was only 45 when he committed suicide. And yeah, but at the same time, dude did a lot. He wrote a lot. He did all the acting and stuff like that. And so he dabbled in a bunch of different things. And so I think in such a short life, he managed to get so much done. So anyway, the movie that we have here kind of jumps between different aspects. The main focus is the present day, the last day of his life. It shows him dressing up and getting dressed and going in a car and driving off to see, what is it, the general, or who is it that they were seeing? I have to look at the plot again. Yeah, the general of the Japan self-defense forces. And so he wants the emperor reinstated. That's what he wanted. Nobody listened to him, and so that's why he committed suicide. And so we see that, but we also get a lot of flashbacks. All the flashbacks are in black and white, and they show him as a boy and him growing up and all that. And throughout that, we also get probably the trippiest part of the book, the movie, little adaptations of three of his books. The Temple of the Golden Pavilion, which is about this man who has a stutter, and he ends up coming upon this beautiful pavilion, and that's so beautiful that he ends up burning it down. Kyoto's House, which is about this young man who is in a relationship with this woman who, I guess, has the deed to his mother's snack house or something like that, and they end up having this relationship that's based on cutting or something like that. And then the final book is Runaway Horses, which was part of his final series, and it's probably the most interesting because it's one of those life imitates art things, or art imitates life kind of things, where the end of the character at the end of Runaway Horses commits seppuku, just like Mishima did at the end of his life. And so it's sort of a bit of a hint. And it was written about a year, I think it was released about a year before his death. And so, yeah. And so so it's really interesting. The books are set, the book adaptations are set in like little kind of like play areas. You can kind of see the surroundings of the things. It's very much like that one Eclipse movie that you guys saw. I think it's the wedding, the blood wedding one. Whereas you can kind of tell it's on a set, you know. So interesting technique they used for that. So yeah. So anyway, that's all I really got to say. Mishima, this is a really interesting movie. Again, it was produced by Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas, so it's definitely got a lot of American influence in this movie. And there was a lot of trouble making it. I know that I heard that one of the stories they told was that I guess his widow was concerned that they would only be focusing on the last day of his life, you know, as if that was like the most interesting thing about him, you know. And so, but they assured him all that. And so, yeah, one of the interviews by what was her name, Aiko Ishioka, the production designer. She said she hated Mishima, and she was like, you know, but Schrader asked her to work with him, and she's like, you know, I don't like him, I can't stand him. He's like, that's absolutely perfect, you know, because this is not your vision of Mishima, this is my vision of Mishima. And so, interesting little tidbits from the supplements. So anyway, Mishima, Life in 4 Chapters, an interesting. Oh yeah, the 4 chapters: beauty, art, action, and oh gosh, I forgot the name of the last one. What was the last one? Beauty, art, action, harmony of pen and sword. And so yeah, so just as a little flashback, beauty is mostly focusing on the Temple of the Golden Pavilion, and then art is basically just Kyoto's house, and then action is mostly runaway horses, although it kind of bleeds into Harmony of Pen and Sword, I think. Yeah, honestly. So yeah. So anyway, that's the movie. What do I give it? I'll give it an A. Good movie. I liked it. I might even pick it up. I don't know. I would like to see this again. I think again, Mishima's life was so very interesting that it's worth another look, you know. And although I think, you know, it's one of those things where it's the supplements also really knock it out of the park too, because the supplements, there's a lot of footage of Mishima, you know, existing footage of Mishima in interviews and things like that, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, it's a worthwhile package. I give it an A. Supplements. Disc 1 has a trailer on it. One of the other things that I didn't that I messed around with was, I guess the movie has optional narration. Some of it in Japanese by Ken Ogata, and an English one by Roy Scheider. I guess. Oh no, I thought that was Roy Scheider. And so I went and put on the Japanese voiceover, but however I couldn't figure out how to program on which one was the subtitles for that. So anyway, interesting stuff. So anyway, that is that, and we are supplements. Oh yeah, supplements. That's when we were finishing supplements. So there's a new documentary called Making Mishima, which has interviews with John Bailey and Philip Glass, who did the music, and Aiko Ishigooka. And there's a new interview with called Producing Mishima with Tom Luddy and Mataishiro Yamamoto, who are the producers. And there's also an audio interview with Shiko Schrader, and the interviews with John Nathan and his friend Donald Ritchie. There's also a 6-minute interview from a French television program featuring Mishima talking about writing, and it actually has him talking in French. He like tries to talk in French for a little bit, and then he says, "I'm gonna speak in Japanese," and then he goes back to Japanese, and it's this like, man, this dude knew his stuff, you know. So anyway, yeah, it's an interesting interview. And there's also a 55-minute BBC documentary called The Strange Life of Yukio Mishima, which I thought was brilliant. I thought it was really, really fascinating, and I thought it was, you know, one of the most enjoyable. It's worth it alone, just for that. You know, I may pick it up just for this 55-minute documentary. You know, not even watch the movie. You know, yeah. So good stuff. Mishima, Life of 4 Chapters A, good stuff. I seriously recommend checking this out at least once. So that's it for today. So somebody mentioned to me that I should do both Mishima and Patriotism in the same day, and obviously because this is Yukio Mishima's film he made. It was like, I think it's only a short film. It was only like 22 minutes long. And originally I was going to do that, but I couldn't find the time. But tomorrow we will get to Mishima. We'll get to that tomorrow evening. I'll upload that. And what else? Yeah, sorry about this being late. Of course, yesterday things came up and I just didn't feel like I had enough time to do Mishima. But obviously I could have probably, but we got it done. So anyway, yeah, and then after that, just looking at my account right now. Class Toon Risk is still on its way. The Furies is here. Before the Rain is in. So I'll pick those up tomorrow. And a Vampire, I put a pulled on Vampire, and that's on its way. Mon Oncle Antoine is on its way. Brand Upon the Brain is on its way. So those are coming sooner than later. And yeah, so that's about it. And then we'll see if the Eclipser isn't ready for the Larissa Shapico, I think that's her name, I can't remember. If we're ready for that one, that box, or that Eclipse series. So yeah, so anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Don't try suicide. And and I guess if you are attempting to reinstate the Emperor of Japan, you better make your speech really damn believable. Just saying. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for more Mishima fun with Patriotism. And until then, goodbye.